Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's video. My name is Angel DeSantis. I am a yoga instructor and a religious trauma counselor, and today's video is going to be on how to replace the mental structure of God in your life and kind of what to replace it with. And this is my personal journey. This is something that worked for me, and I just want to share that with you guys because I know that a lot of you are here because you've experienced religious trauma, and it can be really, really confusing when you exit an abusive religion to have to replace God, and it feels like an impossible task. And the thing is you never need to lose God. You can just take God away from the abusive sense through which he was instilled in you, and you can end up having a really beautiful relationship. But for some of us, we do need to release it entirely because it was so abusive and oppressive that it doesn't feel good to have the version of God that you grew up with. And for me, I no longer believe in God. I think that there is something in the universe, obviously. I think that there's a really natural flow of life, but I do not ascribe to the God that I grew up with. And I want to talk about what it was like to lose that and also what I replaced it with. Because I think that sometimes a lot of people stay with God because they don't know how to replace him, or it can feel really, really fearful of like, if I let go of God, he has to come for me. Because that's what the abusive religion will teach you, is that if you step out on God, God out of love will come punish you. So I kept my version of God for a while until it just made no sense. And the more that I learned about logic and the more that I learned about real life and the possibilities that life has, the more I realized that the version of God that I had was exclusively detrimental to my self-development. So I let it go. But I want to talk about what I replaced it with, because God is so ingrained, especially if you grow up in religion. It's ingrained into every thought that you have. You take God into consideration. And you think that if I don't base my morality or my ethics or the person I am off of God, then what? And it just feels like this void. And if you let it all go, it can be kind of a shock mentally and physically, and it can have really devastating consequences. So I want to talk about what I used, which was Stoicism, and I want to offer that out. I know I mentioned these books in another video that I did, which I will link somewhere up here for a resource. And I highly recommend two books. One is The Daily Stoic by Ryan Holiday. He does a bunch of different books. This one is really good. It's a daily, and it makes it really simple. So he just has this little, the day, and then a little quote or a little explanation of how to go into it. So I'm going to read. This is May 8th, and it says, "Good and evil, look at your choices. Where is good? In our reasoned choices. Where is evil? In our reasoned choices. Where is that which is neither good nor evil? In the things outside of our own reasoned choice." And that's from Epictetus, because he's the best Stoic. And then this little part right here says, "Today, as things happen and you find yourself wondering what they all mean, as you find yourself contemplating various decisions, remember that the right thing to do always comes from our reasoned choice, not whether something is rewarded, not whether something will succeed, but whether it's the right choice." And that's just facts. And it's something that is inspirational, and it's something that I feel good. I feel more intelligent having read it. And I think a lot of times when you come out of a religious place, one of the devastating losses is the sense of bolstering, or the sense of inspiration that you get from the Word of God, which is, they intend for that to happen. They intend for you to receive inspiration from nowhere else but God, so that you are too afraid to leave. And for me, I found so much inspiration in Stoicism. And again, it's simple. This book is really great because there's one for every single day. And I'm going to bleed this right into the next book that I recommend. So this is Epictetus, and this is The Art of Living, my favorite book, my desert island book. And this is how it's set up. And how I would do this is I would read this. So this is a whole thing. This is a short one. If you want to join, then we can just do this exercise now, where you'll just read this and see what it says. And then what I would do is I would then journal and just write, just free form, just a bunch of words about how I felt about the subject, because this stuff is really good. Stoicism is a lot of like facts and logic and just the understanding of what is in your control and what is outside of your control. And I think the ability to differentiate that is really important, because with religion, sometimes they will teach you that everything is within your control because you have access to God and God has control over everything. So then when something bad happens to you, they blame you and they say, well, it was due to your relationship with God, as opposed to the understanding that most of life is out of your control. And most life events have nothing to do with you, but they happen to you or they happen around you. And there's got to be a way for you to navigate through them. So for me, Stoicism was a really, really helpful way to navigate through it. I'm just going to read this real quick. It says, conduct yourself with dignity. No matter where you find yourself, comport yourself as if you were a distinguished person. While the behavior of many people is dictated by what is going on around them, hold yourself to a higher standard. So it's really simple. And then it makes me be like, okay, what part of my behavior is dictated by what's going around me, around what's going on around me. And then I would write out, okay, what was the last time that I did that? Or is it possible for me to hold myself to a standard that I create as opposed to one that the religion created? And do I think that I hold myself to be a distinguished person? And what does that mean for me? And then it allowed me to actually grow my own inner compass and have my own mental framework for why I am the way that I am, which then introduced me to the fact that life is a choice. Life is the sum of your choices. But if you grew up in a religiously abusive environment, you won't know that. You really will not understand what choice is or how you can make it for yourself or how your life is your choice. So this Stoicism was super, super helpful for me. And I highly recommend it because it's a really beautiful mental structure. And as you go through it and you ask yourself the right questions, life becomes much easier because you understand what part of it is under your control and what isn't. So I highly recommend these two books. Again, Daily Stoic by Ryan Holiday and Art of Living, Epictetus. This translation is by Sharon LaBelle. So I recommend those two for mental structure because mental structure will be really, really important. It is also important to note that when you come out of something that's really extreme, and this is what I saw some people do, which scared me away from it, but when you come out of something extreme that's over here and you just let it go, it will swing to the opposite end of the spectrum. And then you'll hold an extremist belief simply on the other side. And the problem is not this side or this side, it's the fact that they are both extremes of the same, it's the same spectrum, they're just opposite extremes. So you might feel that, I was at this extreme, so this one is better. And the extreme belief is the problem. So what you want to do is you want to start walking towards the middle. And for me, Stoicism helped me walk towards the middle in a healthy way without letting everything kind of collapse around me, which it can sometimes feel like your world does when you lose your religion. The other thing that I want to mention, am I mentioning this because I'm a yoga teacher? Maybe. But yoga. And it's not that I recommend this book, it's that this book is pretty and it says yoga. But I recommend some sort of physical practice to get in touch with your body again. For me, I grew up in a cult that was very physically abusive, not just physical abuse, but also sexual abuse. So I really had to do a lot of work to get in touch with my body. And I think that with religious abuse, a lot of it is physical or sexual. And it's really important when somebody is weaponizing God against your physical body, it's important to sever that and to come back to a healthy relationship to your body and to understand what it's like to be in your body and be able to identify pain. For me, for a long time, I would have pain, but I wouldn't identify it as pain. It would just be, oh, that's always there, let me numb it. Because what I knew how to do from all the beatings was to disassociate from my body and to numb it. So something would happen and I would numb. And that's just not a healthy way to be in your body. And I really would encourage you to pick up some sort of physical practice. That can be breathing techniques. That can be yoga, it can be going on a walk, it can be Pilates, it can be whatever you need it to be, but start to cultivate a relationship to your physical body. That might be through eating habits. Do you have a healthy relationship with food, or do you eat to compensate or overcompensate, or do you not eat? But it's important to look at everything, because when you come out of an abusive religion, it has affected most, if not all, areas of your life. And it's important to take every area back and make it yours again. And again, you do that through first acknowledging that things in your life are your choice. And if you don't believe that, okay, that's fine. But ask yourself, what if my life was my choice? Would I make different choices? If so, what are they? Because for me, for a while, I didn't think my life was my choice. And so when somebody would say that to me, I would be like, no, I would never choose this. And when I thought about, okay, what would I choose instead? Then that's when my life started to trend upwards, because then I thought, okay, well, I would choose this instead. And then I thought, well, no one's stopping me now, so let me walk towards that. And then life can become a really, really beautiful journey of how far or how much contrast can you get from the abusive place that you start, or from the abusive religion, or from the mental illness. What sort of contrast can you create in your life? And that's something that you personally have to cultivate and walk towards. So I hope that you found this helpful. I hope that these will be tools that will help you walk into the contrast that you can make in your life. And if there is something that has helped you, whether mentally or physically, please do drop it below, because just because these things worked for me doesn't mean that they'll work for you or for anyone. I hope that they do, which is why I'm sharing them. But if there was something that helped you, please share it if you feel like it, because maybe someone will read that comment and it'll be exactly the thing that they need. So yeah, if you have questions, let me know. Otherwise, as always, thank you guys for being here, and I'll see you next time.